Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be breaking down all of the specializations in regards to PvP for the expansion Mists of Pandaria. Which ones do I consider to be the most fun or had a completely unique and dynamic playstyle that you absolutely can't miss out on, that you're not going to find in basically any other expansion? These are the types of things that I'm taking into consideration. It is going to be a little bit more subjective of a tier list. I'll talk a little bit of about power, because obviously if a spec is a big underperformer, then it may be something that you might be more wise to avoid, just because we don't know what the PvP systems are going to look like at this moment, if they've updated it, if there's going to be solo queue systems, or if it's just going to be exactly as it was in Mists of Pandaria. Because if you're an LFG and you pick one of these underperforming specializations, it's going to be a lot harder to find a group. So I do think it's important to acknowledge, but the main focus of this video is like basically how excited am I about the specialization historically. Like, this is just one of the all-time best times to play a spec. And that is the case for a lot of the specializations actually for Mists of Pandaria. I'm very excited about that. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So let's get started here. We got the Frost Mage. Now, Mage in general in Mists of Pandaria was just chef's kiss. It's just the best carry class in the game. I think Alter Time being the most notable ability. While Alter Time is available in the retail game, it functioned differently in Mists of Pandaria. It would basically snapshot all of your procs. So you could build a bunch of Frostfire Bolt proc, Ice Lance procs, snapshot them, send them out, alter back, rewind them, and then send them out again. You also had a lot of on-demand instant crowd control that was off the global cooldown with deep freeze and counter spells, so you could blanket silence one target, deep freeze another target. You could absolutely carry, shred targets, blast people to pieces. I think that this is like one of the best times to play a mage in any expansion ever, basically, especially if you like control and burst playstyles, and obviously it's remarkably strong. So we're putting it up here in the mega fun category. Now, Arcane Mage is a little bit more memey. I think a lot of people will probably remember the Omega Shenron from Mitch Jones. It was not as strong, obviously, as Frost, but it was still fun. I think it was definitely still fun. It's different than the retail version. The retail version is much more focused around arcane missiles and barrage AoE damage, whereas Arcane in this one's about like stacking up for massive single target damage. So it is a little bit different. I think it's okay. I'm gonna put it on the fun tier. I think it's power relative to Frost. Definitely, you're gonna have a much harder time finding a group as Arcane, and it's not really like super unique relative to other iterations, other than the fact that the whole playstyle of the game is different, right? It's more focused around crowd control and crowd control chains. But I'll put it up here on fun, maybe even just a little bit lower. I'll put it up here on great. I think it was kind of still a little bit more of a meme. Fire Mage, it was very similar to Frost with proc resets. Still really fun to just shatter combo people because you actually had that mechanic for Fire. So I do think Fire was decently fun, although Fire started to lose its unique identity, and Cataclysm was much more focused on AoEing and doing massive damage, whereas Fire kind of just becomes a Frost clone in Mists of Pandaria. So for me, I'll probably just put it here for now. I'll put it on the same tier as Arcane. I really think Frost is the one that, at least for myself, that like if I was going to play a mage, I would want to be checking that out. If you want to go on like the little bit more the memeier side, Arcane. Fire, again, there were players that made it work. But I think ultimately, like I remember in tournaments, so there was some Fire God comps, Fire Shadow Priest teams that made it decently far, but it was almost always Frost. So I would imagine Frost comes out a little bit ahead of there, and they're basically just reskins of each other as far as playstyle. Demonology Warlock was really cool. I think for a lot of Warlock players, they missed this expansion because when you still had Metamorphosis, you could transform into the big demon and then send in giant chaos waves crashing in on their target. As far as viability, it's still uncertain because they're going to likely be taking the balance patch from the end of the expansion, which was after Demonology received significant nerfs. They'd taken the first iteration, the first patch, you probably would have been one of the best specs in the game. So it's tough to say where exactly you'll land with, season 1 gear, but end of expansion balance. But as far as like unique abilities for Warlock, I'm gonna definitely have to say that it's at least up here on fun, if not like mega fun. I'm gonna put it on mega fun just because it does have such a unique flavor to it at the moment, but I am a bit worried about its viability. So do take that into consideration. I'm a bit worried about its viability, but it was really fun with the unique mechanics that it had. Affliction Warlock. Now, Affliction Warlock, it had a very interesting mechanics. It had Soul Burn, Soul Swap, and the Soul Burn mechanic was a lot different in general just back then. So Soul Burn would make your Soul Swap basically apply a full row of dots to the target instantly. So you'd wait around, get procs, get your trinket procs, and then you'd soul burn, soul swap a full row of dots, and then you would just soul swap that infinitely around the entire team snapshotted and do a massive amount of damage. So snapshot's a completely unique mechanic to the older versions of the game, and it was really important in Mists of Pandaria, especially on Affliction Warlock. So if you liked that playstyle, you missed that playstyle, this is like now the time to do that, because you would have absolutely rocked everybody if you were really good at snapshotting. So for me, I'm putting Affliction up on Mega Fun, and it was also one of the most powerful specializations. Just Lock Shaman X was a really good formula for basically the entire expansion, especially after the demonology nerfs, which is why I'm saying which one's actually ultimately better. It'll be tough to say, but it was really good. This playstyle was completely unique, really good, strong. Destruction Warlock hasn't really changed, honestly, throughout the years. It was just a lot stronger in Mists of Pandaria. I think with Dark Regeneration, a little bit more defense, Gateway being a really long distance, and also a short cooldown. So I don't know what balance tuning they will take for that, but it was a significantly shorter cooldown in Mists of Pandaria, so you could escape a lot more, you were more durable, and your abilities just hit really hard. Like a Chaos Bolt, if you got 2 Chaos Bolts, it was a kill, like 99.9% of the time. And the Chaos Bolt animation was slightly different, but it's not really, it's not that distinctly different other than its viability. Like you can get this playstyle on Destro in a lot of different expansions. So for me, I think I'm just going to put it a little bit lower than Mega Fun and kind of put it on Fun, just because I don't think there was a huge amount of like unique dynamics. It's always just been get double Mortal Coils with Havoc, spam up big Chaos Balls that look like giant dragons in Mists of Pandaria, and blast people down. So it's still fun, obviously still fun, but as far as like unique flavor or mechanic to it, I think it's missing that edge, so we'll leave it down a tier. Balanced Druid. Balanced Druid was really fun. It was just a dot proc playstyle, and it's snapshotting much like all the other dot classes where you tried to get procs before using your celestial alignment to apply dots. I would say in Mists of Pandaria that you had a much more healing focus as Boomkin. You had way more healing abilities. You had things like Cenarian Ward, which allowed you to significantly heal your allies. Heart of the Wild, which gave you a big boost for a small amount of time where you could basically act as a secondary healer. And Druids had Symbiosis, which could steal very interesting abilities. So for a Warlock, for example, you could take Unending Resolve and have Aura Mastery and a Shield Wall effect. Or if you played with a Rogue, you could get Cloak of Shadows. So it was really cool to be a giant turkey with Cloak of Shadows. So it was definitely really unique. But as far as like dot proc playstyle, I guess honestly the retail version isn't like that at all. You kind of just bank up resources and spam them through. So, but it's pretty similar to Cataclysm. So as far as damage output, but I will say you have a much more healing focus, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit more of a hybrid in that sense. I'm going to put Boomkin on Mega Fun. I think it's definitely decently strong. It obviously won one of the BlizzCons in Mists of Pandaria, albeit, that time was different. No add-ons. We'll have to wait and see when it plays around the second time around. But as far as play style, I think it's got a much more unique flavor to it. I personally like this version of Boomkin more, I think, than the current retail version. My personal favorite, I think, is still Catage, the Rot focus. But this one's cool because it's got a little bit more of a hybrid element to it. Beast Mastery Hunter doesn't really change too much, man. I feel like Beast Mastery Hunter's been the same for like, I don't even know how many expansions. Like you had the Stampede bug at the beginning, which I'm assuming is not going to be in the game, which is you just summoned a bunch of pets that auto-attacked. That's basically the history of Beast Mastery Hunter. You just summon a bunch of pets that auto-attack. It was decently strong, but as far as like unique mechanics, I don't really have a huge amount of interest personally. I just feel like Beast Mastery Hunter is just kind of the same every time around. It's just a matter of whether or not it's tuned to be viable or not. So I'm putting this one a little bit lower as far as the fun category. Marksmanship Hunter was decently fun. I think, having a lot of instant crowd control was one of the main strengths of Hunter. Wyvern Sting particularly, Silencing Shot, these types of mechanics let you get control of the game to a significant degree. It's not really that different other than basically just Chimera Shot hits really hard. You just like boop and you do a lot of damage and you have a lot of extra instant CC. I think it's a little bit more fun than Beast Mastery. And this is probably just, again, personal bias as far as that. Like I said, there's gonna be a little bit of subjectivity here. Like if I was looking at the classes and like which ones I'm like frothing at the mouth, like I can't miss out, I need to see this spec, I would put this a little bit higher than Beast Mastery because it's mostly just pet simulator, whereas a lot more of the damage is coming from you as the hunter with marksmanship. Survival Hunter actually had some pretty cool mechanics. You had multi-shot that could apply Serpent Sting, so you could AoE dot the entire team. I remember doing that at Raid Battlegrounds, and you just top the damage meter every time. You just run around spamming multi-shot, and it just applied Serpent Sting to everybody, and you're actually having a pretty good time with it. in that regard. So I actually think Survival Hunter is kind of fun, just because that's totally different. It doesn't, and you're not going to get ranged Survival Hunter on retail probably ever again. So I'm going to put Survival maybe like at least equal with Marks, or maybe a little bit higher. It is kind of mostly just the multi-shot cheese that I'm thinking of when I think of Survival, as far as being kind of fun and unique towards Mists of Pandaria, but definitely a good option, I think. Shadow Priest, this is when they introduced the 3 orb devouring plagues. This was when you had like a 3-2-1 go, basically. You could bank up a lot of damage and send out a bunch of burst. They also introduced Siphing, which I assume is going to be the post-nerfed Siphing, but it was still really annoying and really good. And obviously Shadow Priest Mage is one of the strongest compositions in the expansion, and might be the strongest again. It would be very curious to see how the meta plays out a second time around with add-ons, player knowledge, information shared as much as it has been. But I think Shadow was definitely like a mega fun specialization. It got new upgrades from Cataclysm, new mechanics, new abilities, a lot of instant crowd control. Definitely was really viable. That's Feral Shadow Priest Mage, or Feral Shadow Priest and Mage. These types of combos were really good throughout the entire expansion. It was really fun. Elemental Shaman was a fun specialization, but much like Beast Mastery, it was basically the same playstyle it's always been. Put Flame Shock up, proc Lava Burst, you're done. That's it. That's literally, you're a 2-button class. That's all you do. You just Flame Shock, Lava Burst, use your utility. You're really tanky with low HP procs when you dip low. I'm spacing out on the name of it right now, but basically when you got low health, you had this auto heal mechanic, which is what made you really strong. And obviously being able to use Shamanistic Rage while stunned made you really strong. Low cooldown defenses that can rotate with passive mitigation. We've seen that make classes strong in any expansions. But I don't know. It's like, it's not that different than Ellie really has been in almost any expansion ever. So like for me personally, this might be a hot take, but I'm putting it on meh. Like, it's just like, I don't feel like I'm going to miss out if I don't play Ellie. Like, I just log on Ellie on retail. I could log on Ellie on any expansion. It's going to be the proc playstyle. I guess if you're coming from Kata, where Ellie was really bad, and you're like playing only Kata Classic and you're going into MOP, it's going to be a big step up. But as far as like abilities, I feel like I've seen it. I don't think there's like a huge amount of difference. I just feel like I've seen it. So I'm not super stoked as far as like fun factor, FOMO, or missing out on this one as much. But it was really strong. It was one of the strongest specs. Again, it's a fun tier list, so don't think that doesn't mean that Ellie Shaman isn't good. It's really good. Mistweaver Monk was really cool though. I think the main mechanic, which we'll have to see if people find third-party software or not a second time around, was orb botting, which is where you took the spheres and you healed them on the ground, and you had like basically it was like an FPS to heal. And I remember being at the North American regionals, which my team qualified to. We lost very promptly but we all sat and congregated behind Sharpstorm's computer because he's playing only Mistweaver Monk at the tournament, and everybody thought he was cheating before we was watching him play at LAN because he played so good with the orb placement. And watching him place these orbs and how he was moving around the map and healing like that, you're never going to get that playstyle again. This is the only time to get that, and if you can pull it off, it looks so cool. So I'm putting Mists of Pandaria, Mistweaver Monk here up onto Mega Fun. I don't know why my list got kind of screwed up there. I was supposed to talk about melee specs, and this one healer escaped there. But hey, you know what? That healer spec was one that was definitely worth covering. Windwalker Monk is the same deal. We can just shove this right up into Mega Fun. I don't think you're going to get an iteration of Windwalker Monk like in Mists of Pandaria. It was the best time to play a Windwalker Monk. I think particularly the Storm, Earth, and Fire, splitting yourself into 3 images and sending them onto different targets to apply mortal wounds to multiple targets was a really fun playstyle with a Warlock. Definitely one of the best times to play, if not the best time to play a Windwalker Monk. Retribution Paladin, I don't remember it being very strong. It was probably average at best. I think you play Ret Hunter, and that was basically it. I don't remember its play style. You know, I know a lot of Rets liked Wad Ret. I think it was for the Sanctified Seals talent. If I'm mispronouncing that, let me know. But I don't really remember it being like dat poggies in MOP. So I'm not particularly interested in checking Ret. I don't think I'll be missing out on anything if I didn't check out on it. And if you were like a Ret main, like, is this the expansion to be like stoked out about checking Ret? I'm kind of like, nah, you missed that. That was Kata for Ret, maybe Wad. If they do Wad, we don't know. But for MOP, kind of just not that interested. And honestly, the rogue specs across the board, I feel like I'm not super stoked about. I feel like they're all relatively the same. Blind Sap, Kidney Shot, Garrote, same type of mechanics they've got in a lot of other expansion. Now, obviously, I think Subtlety, though, for Assassination, just not really interested. I think it's just been basically the same types of mechanics, not particularly strong. I do think Rogue was overall the class that, I've seen some people trying to say from that they think Rogue is going to be really good, but that time around, everyone re-rolled from Rogue to Warrior, even Wreckful, right? Like you re-rolled to Anticide. Like I don't know. I just don't think Rogue is going to be popping off as like the most disgusting thing ever, and its playstyle is still very similar. I'd say though, for subtlety at least, if you like that crowd control playstyle and you play Rogue Mage, that this is probably going to be one of the best times to do that if you want that type of playstyle. So for me, maybe subtlety gets a little bit higher just because it's going to be better synergized for that, and it's really just composition playstyle more than like individual spec. As far as like uniqueness and like missing out. And then combat, I don't really feel like I'm going to miss this one, even though I played a lot, I think, with Wound Man, and he was playing combat and he was talking about killing spree, but so he's just kind of like, I don't think, like, maybe it's a little bit more interesting than this just because of the nostalgia for me on this spec, but not super interested with the rogue specs, to be fair, for Mr. Pandaria. Enhancement Shaman, this one was really fun when you activated Ascendance and you just absolutely blasted targets. Now, you can get that playstyle on live, but Enhance kind of poo-poo. But Enhance was not, like, super strong either in MOP. It had a couple of comms. It was a really one-shot cheese spec, which is kind of what Enhance was just known for, right? Like, here comes the wolves, the bloodlust, down goes, the story. So like Enhance, I'd put it up here. I think as far as like wanting to check it out, as far as play style, I think it was one of the better iterations for like what you would expect to come from your Enhancement Shaman, but maybe not like that remarkably mind-blowing relative to other iterations. It's not like you're really missing out on a huge amount of stuff. Feral Druid had some unique mechanics. Again, Druid Symbiosis, same deal. You got Bubble from a Paladin. I think you got Disperse from a Priest. So you got some crazy strong abilities with those types of synergies. You did have some unique stuff at the beginning. You had Trents, which Boomkin had as well, which I could have talked about, which is like off global cooldown roots. But you had off global cooldown stuns, and I don't think you're going to get that this time, unfortunately. I think you're just going to be starting you out with roots. Feral Druid was a notorious shaman killer. I just remember Taliesin killing Sea-Doo with Vive every day on stream, and that was the whole story. It was just kill the shaman every single time with Feral Druids and warriors. I don't know if I would say Feral is like incredibly unique. Again, it's more of a playstyle thing. If you liked the instant crowd control and the CC chains, then Ferals can be really fun to play with all the control that you have and the chain CC that you can do with that. But it's very similar, right? It's the same core abilities that it's had for a very long time. So I'll probably just put it up here for now on great. Like, it's got some of the core mechanics, not really a huge amount that I remember being different than it has been in many other expansions, but was still pretty decently viable. It was more of like a counter pick, I think, for Resto Shamans than anything else. But it was still pretty fun. Fury Warrior, I gotta be straight up with you guys. I don't really remember anything about this, but I remember not everyone was arms. That's what I could tell you right now, is everyone was arms. Nobody was Fury. So I don't know if it has anything interesting going on with it at all. This is the one spec that I am the least familiar with. Like, nobody played this except the one guy who really liked it. So at least for me, I'm putting it on no interest. I mean, maybe there is a little bit of interest just because of the fact that no one played it, but everybody was arms. And the reason they were arms was taste for blood stacks. You could get these massive hits of damage, the banner play style, being able to intervene to your banners, reduce crowd control, move around the map like a ping pong ball, go all over the place with tons of DRing stuns like Shockwave and Storm Bolt and all these other different stuns that you had together. Like, Warrior was mega fun. Warrior was mega fun. We're putting it up on mega fun. You got just so much control of the game and so much damage. It was really fun. Death Knight, I don't remember this one being like particularly fun. Like there was like, you could play Hunter DK. I think that was like your main comp, and maybe DK Warrior. And you play with Mistweavers a lot of time because they only heal with enough throughput to keep you alive with the orbs. But I don't remember it being like super unique. I feel like DK popped off in Kata. That was in Wrath. Those were like its main like highlight expansions. MOP, it kind of just stays the same. It's kind of just like like good, but not super spectacular. Frost DK, much like Fury Warrior, definitely less familiar with it. I do think Frost kind of popped off early Kata with Hungering Cold, and I don't remember it having much. It's just been the same as it's always been, right? Frost DK doesn't really change that much. So for me, it's kind of just meh. I don't remember it being super viable. Again, maybe a shaman killing setup with like a warrior or something, but don't remember it being super viable. Nothing about it's really standing out to me like I need to be playing this this time around. I feel like Mr. Pandaria for DKs and Rogues, not really kind of like your selling expansion. Resto Druid, on the other hand, is definitely Omega fun. Resto Druid is really good, really fun. Lots of clone playstyle. And with Nature Swiftness, you can be aggressive with it. It was really strong. Symbiosis with Mages for Ice Block. Redonkulous. So you had a lot of cool new stuff. Really strong. Probably like the go-to healer, I think, for the expansion. Restoration Shaman. Now, it has the core utility of Restoration Shaman, which I think is actually just fun no matter what. But a lot of your healing was just totems. I remember this expansion was just like healing stream totem plus goat. I think for a while, hunters had a goat pet that reduced like cast speeds, and everybody was using that. So it was just like healing stream goat, and that was the meta for one of the patches in Mists of Pandaria. And maybe that, I don't know if it's going to be the goat pre-nerf or post-nerf. Maybe that comes back. A lot of your healing was just from your totems. So like, it was a strong healer. Don't get me wrong. Like easily competitive with Resto Druid. But as far as like uniqueness and fun factor, I feel like it's just kind of the same. You know, it's just kind of the same. So I would put it about here. I think it's just, I don't remember you getting really anything, you know, insanely new or unique. So for me, not like, you know, if I was going to play MOP and I only had time to play one character, I want to make sure I was getting like the coolest, most unique, best FOMO experience or expansion. I don't know if Shaman would be up there towards the top. Holy Paladin, same deal. I just don't remember Holy Paladin having anything like particularly interesting that was like compelling me to like remember it, right? Like if there's something I'm missing here and you guys play these specs and you think I'm totally off base, please let me know in the comments down below. But my experience with Holy Paladin a lot of times is just like, man, I wish you were a druid or a shaman. Except for maybe some niche scenarios where it was like a shaman killing comp where it was like, oh, thank God you're a paladin. But like, is this kind of meh? I just don't really remember it. Now, Holy Priest, the chakras were really cool. Now, I think viability for Holy Priest, I've been having a lot of debate with people as whether or not they think it was strong or not. It's definitely not unviable, but the chakra playstyle was really fun. So like if you want to experience a completely unique version of Holy Priest, you're going to get that from Mists of Pandaria. Although I am a bit questionable about like questioning the viability overall, but very unique playstyle. A lot of the Holy Priests are reminiscent of the chakras, and they are very excited to get back onto that. Discipline Priest is basically the same. It's just Penance, Powered Shield, Psychic Scream. You get Siphing, which is kind of cool. You got to be really careful about protecting it with Powered Shield. I think like it's probably just like good. It's just kind of like, it's just like the same, you know? It's not like a huge amount of new stuff for it. I would say that these healers are kind of more appealing, Mistweaver being at the top for that one, as far as uniqueness, as far as like these are like the specs. I think everybody has something that they remember being really cool, or just the playstyle or their viability. A couple of these guys have some cool comps that playstyles you're not gonna be able to get anymore from more recent versions of the game. And then a lot of these are either just like not very viable, or just don't have any like unique new mechanic, or just kind of just the same thing, right? Like Ellie, I'm sure some people will say Ellie is mega fun because you just flame chuck on lava burst and that's so fun, right? And I'm just sitting here like, yeah, but I've done that. Like I've done that for so many years. So again, like you want to do that, you're gonna think it's mega fun. That's why I say some subjectivity here. I just mostly put these guys here because they either had like one or two mechanics that you're not gonna get from any other expansion, and an experience and flavor that you're not gonna get, which is I think what's really important as far as experience for fun. But it doesn't mean that these guys aren't fun. It's all subjective. A lot of you might have good memories of some of these specs and be like, I'm gonna do that. That was fun. I like that. And that's up to you. I'm just trying to give you guys my piece, my say on this. So if you're having a tough time picking a specialization, that maybe this helps you out as far as making that selection, and depending on what your goals are. If you want to make sure you're getting like a unique experience on a spec that you really wanted to experience what that was like, then hopefully this has helped you make that decision. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.